Hey, it's Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of People of Distinction, the talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, peopleofdistinction.org for more info, or you can always email me directly at benji@alcoleenterprises.com. And we are very excited to showcase this next guest here on our network, so sit back, strap in, and get ready for a wonderful ride. On the line with us today, we have Leroy Hubbert. We are very excited to have him with us today. Now, Leroy's book that he's written is called Inspirational Explosion from Deep Within, God's Anointed Touch. So it's going to give you a rough idea of what we're going to be encompassing today. But I promise you, until you go to his Amazon and Barnes & Noble page and you do the research for yourself, you're only going to get one side of it because there is so much going on here, and I'm really looking forward to this. And before we jump into it, I just want to say Leroy was brought to our network, People of Distinction today, by some of the best publishers in the business, Sweetspire Literature Management. So if you or anybody you know have a book that they'd like moved, give yourself the best gift you could possibly give and move it through Sweetspire. And you can find out more information on them and their fantastic team at sweetspireliterature.com. And listen, people, as I mentioned before, it's an absolute pleasure to have Leroy here on the line. Now, as I mentioned, when you go to his Amazon, Barnes & Noble page, you start to do your own research on it. You're going to be quickly greeted by the fact that it's an educational / motivational, inspirational memoir of sorts, right? Now, memoir in the sense that a lot of it is going to be taken from Leroy's own experience. So we're really going to learn from the wisdom that he's acquired through his journey. But man, listen, not only is it his journey, there's poetry that's added in. There's just so much wisdom that is captured in the confines of the book. People, I'm telling you, by the time we're done with today's interview, because we're only going to cover a small portion, by the time we're done, you're going to run on over to his Amazon and Barnes & Noble pages because it's going to be that impactful. So without further ado, sit back, strap in, and have your notebooks ready because Leroy is the expert. He's written the book, and he's going to be able to articulate everything much better than I ever could. Leroy, first and foremost, man, welcome to People of Distinction, and thank you very much for being a guest. How you doing today?
I'm doing good, and thank you for inviting me.
Of course, absolutely. Listen, the pleasure is all ours. We get a lot of guests that come to our network, and when this book came across our table, it was a no-brainer. It's something that, when we're talking about inspirational narratives, of course, given the past 2.5, what feels maybe like 40 years now that we've been dealing with this pandemic, and a lot of the civil unrest and the political divide that we have going on here, not only in the States, but across the world, an inspirational book of this magnitude is really needed right now. So it's very timely. There's going to be so much benefit to what you're talking about, the words you're putting on the page. And at the end of the day, one of the underlying messages is never to give up, right? Perseverance, continue to fight and push through. I love that, and we need that right now. Leroy, before we go into the book, start by telling our listening audience a little bit more about yourself and your background, please.
Well, I started out, I'm retired military, currently working for the Department of Veteran Affairs Law Enforcement Training Center. Single parent, raised 2 kids by myself. Wow. And just took on other kids as they came on. Kids came through the neighborhood, or my children's friends didn't have 2 parents in the home. Some of them just kind of gravitated to me and started calling me dad. So here I am. And then a lot of what I go through or what I've been through it stemmed from the type of parents that I had, because my parents never turned anybody away. Even though we all lived in separate houses or different cities and stuff, my friends from high school could still go to my parents and say, hey, can you help us with this? And that's where a lot of where I got it from.
Absolutely. You know, Leroy, a couple of things, man. First and foremost, thank you very much for your service, not only in the military, but also as a law enforcement representative. And I think especially on that latter part, right? Law enforcement, rightfully so, of course, has gotten a bad rap over the past number of years, given the actions of certain bad apples, right? So I really want to be the one to say here on our network, thank you very much for your service and really protecting our freedoms, because we know that not every representative of the law enforcement agency makes those questionable decisions that a select few have. And I really want to make sure that we acknowledge that and put out our thanks, because, again, you put your life on the line every day for us here in the States to protect our liberties, and we appreciate that.
Well, thank you.
Of course. Secondly, congratulations on what sounds like a beautiful family that you've constructed. Nothing but continued success for you and all your loved ones. And, as you were going through and you were talking about the way you were brought up and how your parents were and really how you are now as a father, it reminds me of that quote, "It takes a village to raise a child," right? And I truly believe that. And for those that are fortunate enough to be surrounded by that village and to have those resources, it is a beautiful thing to watch. And I thankfully was along those same lines coming from the East Coast in the area that I'm in. And that's for another discussion. We'll invite you back for another interview with regards to that, Leroy. Listen, man, today's interview is all about your fantastic book, Inspirational Explosion from Deep Within. Tell us a little bit more about your book.
Okay, well, the book actually, I was going through at the end of my military career, had some medical issues, going through a bad divorce. So, and that was my way out, because I really didn't, I could go to the church and talk to my pastor. There was a couple of people in the neighborhood I could talk to, but nothing really sank in until one day I just sat down and started typing things out. I started out with Dear God letters. Mm-hmm. And that went on to, from the Dear God letters to, okay, here's little mini sermons. Then I started having dreams and just taking on as I remember one time, one of the things that I wrote, I was out cutting the yard. I was so mad. I was so upset with what was going on in my household. Out cutting the yard and just started praying, and things just started coming to me. So that's where a lot of my writing came from in the beginning. And then as time went on, when Facebook came around, I was already divorced, already had custody of my children. When Facebook came around, I started doing little posts on Facebook. And when I said I was through, the people got mad at me. I'm like, okay, what are you getting mad for? That's when I realized how much it was helping other people. Right. And to go out into public, one story I want to share is, well, actually two. I had a young lady come to my office one day. She said she was there for environmental products, and somebody had told her, if you want anything on this base, you need to come to Sergeant Hubbert. Well, after we rode around and talked, the Holy Spirit hit me, and I just told her, you're not here for this product, for these products. And we talked a little while, and I shared some things with her that made her cry. After becoming a single parent, I was out school shopping with my children, and lo and behold, here we go again. Another young lady struggling with some issues. She was raised by her grandparents, and her grandmother was an old school parent. Well, you don't need to belong in the military. You don't need to go in the military because you're a female, you're this, you're that. Mm-hmm. I didn't tell her what to do, but I told her she got to do what's in her heart. And lo and behold, again, I just had some of my writings, and I sent my kids out to the book, and we opened up the folder and we shared some things there, and I found some inspiration there. So it's just, inspiration is all around you. It's just the people that you connect with when it's there.
Right. Fantastic. Leroy, thank you very much for explaining that. Now, I want to stick with the concept of inspiration. So we're talking about what inspired this particular book, and correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I was gathering from what you just gave, that explanation you just gave, was this was something that maybe started off as almost a cathartic experience for yourself, right? You were going through moments of adversity, and you found a lot of peace and serenity in your writing. And through that, you were able to, of course, as people came across and they were going through their own things, you utilized that to help them. So it's clear what inspired this book. Let's take a step back and let's look at your writing background. What inspired you to even look to writing? I mean, was writing a hobby of yours growing up? Was this something that you always enjoyed doing? Were there artists that inspired you? Talk to us a little bit more about that.
That's kind of funny that you should ask that because truly there was no inspiration as far as writing. I just got to the point where I felt like talking to people wasn't doing any good.
Mm-hmm.
And when I sat down and I write, and then all of a sudden, as I'm writing and I'm explaining to myself what's going on, things just started coming and I started finding answers within myself.
Wow. That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. You know, Leroy, I know your book is filled with advice for people going through their own moments of adversity, which, as I started off the interview by saying, I mean, who isn't going through their fair share of adversity right now? It almost feels like this is something everybody is connected to, of course. Now, for anybody listening in right now, as if my listening audience needs any more of an incentive to go and purchase the book, what are some words of wisdom that you can offer for someone listening in, someone watching right now that is going through their own tough times and can't see the light at the end of the tunnel and really isn't sure how to continue to push forward? What would you like to tell them?
Well, and here's the key to the book. It was written on a religious base, but in my studies, I found out that all religions started on the first 5 books of the Bible. So my thing to the people would pray about it, write about it. When you're sitting down and as you're praying, take your pencil and paper. Don't be in a haste to get up. When you get through praying, just sit and listen. The things that are coming to your mind is actually God or whoever you pray to talking to you, giving you the answers that you need to get up and move forward. And that's where I found a lot of what I was doing at.
That's beautiful, man. That is beautiful. People, again, we're here on the line with Leroy Hubbert. We're discussing his amazing book, Inspirational Explosion from Deep Within, God's Anointed Touch. Available for purchase through Amazon as well as barnesandnoble.com. You know, Leroy, curiosity for myself with this next one, man. What would you say was a highlight for you in writing the book? Or if not a highlight, you know, maybe something that surprised you throughout this entire journey that you weren't anticipating before you began on it?
The highlight of it, I never intended on writing a book. It was just for my personal use.
Right.
But then when I saw how it was helping other people, and my pastor and my father before he died told me I had to put this in a book because there's no telling how many people it would touch.
Yeah, of course.
And then just finding out, basically testing it by putting it on Facebook, I saw how many people it was touching. So at the time I was single parent, full-time job, going to school full time, and still found time to write this book because I saw the need not only just for me, but what other people needed to get them pushing and keep their lives moving forward.
Well, Leroy, we know about the inspiration for this book. We know about, as you just said, you weren't even anticipating writing a book, and it was just something that kind of developed. And as you saw that the demand was there, you kind of felt obligated to go and push it out. So we know about what happened in the past. I want to know what's coming in the future, man. I mean, is there another book on the horizon? Talk to us a little bit more about what's upcoming.
Well, right now I am still posting on Facebook. I have enough material to do maybe about 4 or 5 more books with different from what this one is. But my thing is, I want to get this one off the ground first. I want people to know who I am. I want them to know I'm for real. And one of the things that they'll find in the book with the little sermons and the daily read, I always give a Bible scripture to back up what I'm saying so that, hey, you know, I've been through this. This has already been done before, even in biblical times. Now it's time for us to step out in front and get a hold of and see what lies ahead for us in our future.
Absolutely. You know, Leroy, you've plugged your social media, your Facebook, a couple of times, where actually you've mentioned it. You haven't plugged it yet. So I do want to give you an opportunity. Go ahead and plug your social media accounts, website information, anything in terms of how your readers and our listeners could interact with you, please.
Well, I started out my Facebook page when you look for it, because there's 4 of us on there, you have to look for Leroy Hubbert, and then mine has my name with my picture is a white picture with my name in the center of it, and it says humbled and inspired.
There you have it.
And if you send me a friend request, or if you want to follow me, I'll let you follow me that way. With my Instagram page, it's Arthur ARUTHOR Leroy LEROY Hubbert HUBBERT, all one word. Fantastic. And those are where you find a lot of the stuff that I'm posting right now, and a couple of videos. I'm trying to get into videos because I see that people like those too. So
absolutely. Yeah.
I'm working slowly as to getting into videos.
There you have it. You know, guys, listen, do yourself a favor. You're going to want to head on over after you've purchased the book, after you've read through the book. You're going to want to head to his Facebook and his Instagram pages as well. As he just mentioned to you, he posts constantly on there. So you're going to have new content that's always there, readily available, that's inspirational, that's motivational, it's going to help you get through your day. Head on over there. You surely will not be disappointed. Leroy, last question here, man, as we start to close out of this wonderful interview. As I mentioned to you before, I'm an artist myself. So I love having this platform to be able to pay it forward, in a sense, to other artists out there listening in. Now, Leroy, you are someone that has been through the process, and whether you initially wanted to embark upon writing a book or not, you have. And the book is fantastic, and we really want to take this opportunity to pick your brain. For any new writers out there listening in, someone just starting out, Leroy, what words of wisdom could you relay to them about the journey they're getting ready to embark upon?
Okay, the one thing I would wholeheartedly tell everybody is research your companies, because even with the self-publishing, it's hard to get a traditional publisher.
Yeah.
But even with self-publishing, you have to be very careful, because I've been through, I don't know how many companies before I finally got to the one that's producing the book now.
Yeah.
So do your research and make sure the contents that you're given in that book or manuscript, whatever you're writing, make sure it's something that's genuine, that's coming from the heart, whether it's something fictional, something that's going to inspire somebody, something that's informational. Make sure all the contents in it is something that is going to touch people and help them.
Of course. There it is. I love it. I love it. Guys, do your research right from the heart. I mean, fantastic pieces of advice. And you know what I love even more is we are now at the end of the interview. We've covered so much information, and yet somehow we've barely scratched the surface. I mean, there's still so much left to be discovered. Amazon, Barnes & Noble are where you have to go. Inspirational Explosion from Deep Within is the title you have to pick up, and Leroy Hubbert is the author you have to thank for bringing this fantastic narrative to your table. You surely will not be disappointed. A wonderful book to add to your shelf, an even better gift to add to someone else's. Head on over there today and pick up your copies. Leroy, this has been an absolute pleasure, man. Such an honor. I truly mean that. Thank you once again for being a guest with us on People of Distinction.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Come and be a guest with us on People of Distinction.